Nebraska and Iowa's attorneys general reached a settlement with a medical diagnostics company surrounding overpriced COVID tests. During the pandemic, the company GS Labs was accused of taking advantage of consumers for billing insurance companies hundreds of dollars, sometimes more than $1,000, for COVID-19 tests. GS Labs had a presence in Omaha at that time near 168th and Blondo. Nebraska and Iowa were two of several states wanting to hold the company accountable. Today, the attorneys general announced a group reached a settlement. That includes GS Labs paying up $4.87 million in restitution. More than $1 million of that will go to Nebraskans harmed by the company's actions. We reached out to one of the owners of GS Labs for their response to the settlement. They said they agreed to resolve the matter to bring a years-long investigation to a close, not because they believe the claims have merit. GS Labs' website says the company has permanently ceased operations.